Frank, your salary's a bit rich for our blood now. We figure 2 bright young grads can cover your load for half the cost. Brendan Holloway, our new VP of Operations, said it with a smirk. He'd been with Aerostrong Composites maybe 6 months. 30, 8 years old, shiny MBA, and a belief that experience was just an overpriced liability. I was Frank Donovan, 58, lead stress analysis engineer for 22 years. I'd basically written the book on how our proprietary composite materials behaved under stress. Every critical load calculation, every safety margin for our aerospace clients, it all came through my department, often through me directly. Nothing personal, Frank. Just optimizing resources, he added, like he was doing me a favor. Linda from HR slid a thin folder across the polished table. Standard severance package. Frank, 2 months of pay, accrued vacation. I picked it up. All right, is that everything? Brendan blinked. Linda looked flustered. They probably expected a scene. An old guy begging for his job. Maybe some tears. Well, Brendan recovered. We'd hope you'd help with a transition. Show the new team the ropes. Maybe a few weeks, consulting basis. The new team was 2 kids fresh out of college he'd hired last month. Smart enough, I guess. But our materials didn't behave like textbook examples. They had quirks. Quirks I knew because I'd spent 2 decades figuring them out, testing them, building custom analysis models, because off-the-shelf software couldn't handle our specific molecular structures. Most of it wasn't even formally documented because we don't have the budget for a technical writer right now, Frank, had been the refrain for years. I'll consider it, I said. I wouldn't. I cleaned out my desk. 22 years in 1 cardboard box. Sarah Chen, a senior analyst I'd mentored, caught my eye as I walked out. She looked pale, worried. I just nodded. Outside, the air felt different. My phone buzzed. Sarah, they're asking about the K950 material fatigue models. The grads are lost. I didn't reply. At home, my wife, Karen, already knew. The company grapevine was fast. So what now? She asked, handing me a beer. We sat on the porch. Something'll come up, I said. What Brendan didn't get, what his MBA hadn't taught him, was that our entire reputation, our multi-million-dollar contracts for things like wing spars and fuselage components, rested on those quirks. I understood. The unique way our K950 composite handled extreme temperature gradients and vibrational stress. The way it needed to be modeled. Aerostrong started small. Old man Hemlock, the founder, had a vision for lighter, stronger aircraft parts. He hired me when I was 36, fresh off a project with a defense contractor. Frank, he'd said, we're doing things no one else is. I need someone who can figure out how strong is before it breaks. We built it together. He found the clients. I made sure our parts stayed in one piece. When Hemlock retired and sold to a venture capital group 5 years back, they rebranded to Aerostrong Composites. They kept me on. My models were too critical, but then came the push for efficiency. New managers, Brendan. My warnings about needing a proper documentation initiative for the K-series materials were ignored. Too costly. My requests for advanced simulation hardware to stay ahead of increasingly complex client demands. Later, Frank. The first call came a week after they walked me out. I was polishing up my LinkedIn profile. Brendan's number. I let it go to voicemail. Frank, it's Brendan. Look, the new guys are having a bit of a hiccup with the stress thresholds on the latest airframe strut designs for Zenith Aerospace. Apparently, your old notes are sparse. Could you just point them in the right direction? Quick call. I deleted it. The calls kept coming. Linda from HR. Even Tom, the head of manufacturing, who usually avoided office politics. Frank, Zenith's on our back. The struts are failing virtual stress tests. They're way below spec. We're looking at a production hold. The next morning, Linda called again. Frank, we're authorized to offer a consulting fee, a generous one, $500 an hour just to look at the strut models. I'll get back to you, I said and hung up. Karen poured me coffee. You gonna help them? They made their choice, I said. Now they get to live with it. 3 days later, my doorbell rang. Brendan Holloway stood there, his sharp suit a little rumpled, hair not quite perfect. Frank, please. We're in serious trouble. Zenith is threatening to pull the contract. The whole strut project is red flagged. Production is stopped. The board is unhappy. He looked like he hadn't slept. Sounds tough, I said, leaning on the doorframe. We need you. Name your price. Short-term contract. Anything? I thought about the box in my garage. 22 years. Nothing personal? Sorry, Brendan, I said. I'm exploring other opportunities. Something's come up. I closed the door. Not with a slam, just closed. The other opportunity was a call I'd received that morning from Evelyn Reed, CEO of Nova Flight Dynamics, a smaller, ambitious aerospace firm looking to make a name for itself with next-generation engine components. Mr. Donovan, she'd said, I heard you recently became available. We've admired Aerostrong's material performance for years, specifically the K950 series. We know that wasn't an accident, that we met for coffee the next day. Evelyn was sharp, an engineer herself before she became CEO. She didn't talk about optimizing resources by firing experienced people. She talked about building resilient systems, about innovation backed by solid engineering. We're developing a new turbine blade, she said. pushing the boundaries of material science. We need someone who understands complex stress deep down, someone who can build our analysis department from the ground up the right way. What about younger, cheaper engineers? I asked, echoing Brendan's logic. Evelyn smiled. We need experience, Mr. Donovan. We need someone who knows what can go wrong before it does. We're not looking for cheap, we're looking for best. The offer was Director of Materials Engineering. A slight pay bump from my old job, stock options, and a commitment to proper resources. Full documentation, mentorship programs I accepted. Meanwhile, Aerostrong was unraveling. Sarah texted me sporadically. The Zenith Strut contract was lost. Rumors of other clients getting nervous. They'd hired a big, expensive consulting firm from out of state to try and reverse engineer my K950 models. The grads were overwhelmed. Brendan called one more time, desperate. Frank, they can't make heads or tails of it. The consultants say your proprietary equations are undocumented. We'll pay triple your old salary completion bonus. Just fix this, Brendan. I said, I have a new job and exclusivity clause. I can't help. Is this about revenge? Are you enjoying this? His voice was thin. No, Brendan. It's about a company deciding experience was a cost, not an asset. You're learning the difference. There could be legal trouble. Intellectual property. He blustered. Everything I developed was on company time, property of Aerostrong. It's all there in the servers. If you can find it and understand it. I took nothing but my experience. Good luck. I hung up. At Nova Flight, I started clean. Building a department, we hired Sarah Chen first. Then 2 other seasoned analysts I knew. We documented every procedure, every model, every line of custom code for our new materials. We trained. We cross-trained. News about Aerostrong got worse. Their stock tanked after they missed a major earnings forecast. They had to publicly admit 2 material science challenges that impacted several product lines. Layoffs started. The consultants were costing them a fortune and getting nowhere fast. About 6 months into my job at Nova Flight, Sarah showed me an internal Aerostrong memo she'd been forwarded by a friend still there. It was dated before my dismissal. A restructuring for efficiency, plan authored by Brendan Holloway, approved by the board. It specifically named me for faced redundancy, to be replaced by junior talent leveraging standardized software solutions. The projected savings were enormous. The actual cost, it turned out, was much higher. They were also prepping for a sale, Sarah said. Brendan was supposed to trim the fat, make the books look good. It all clicked. The short-sightedness wasn't just ignorance, it was calculated greed. Then Evelyn Reed called me into her office. Frank, interesting development. Aerostrong is on the verge of bankruptcy. Their IP around the K series, while currently unusable by them, is still valuable if someone knows how to unlock it, and their manufacturing facilities are top-notch if underutilized. I waited. We're considering an acquisition, she said. A fire sale price. If we do it, we'd need someone to integrate their material science, specifically to get the K950 line productive again under our standards, and oversee the transition of their useful manufacturing assets. The irony was thick. You're asking me to go back there. Not back there, Frank. You'd be leading the materials integration for Nova Flight, making their assets work for us, rebuilding what they broke, but making it ours, making it right. Full authority, proper resources. We bought Aerostrong composites for pennies on the dollar 3 weeks later. My first day walking through the old Aerostrong offices as a Nova Flight director was strange. Some familiar faces were gone. Others looked at me with a mix of shock and something like hope. Brendan Holloway was nowhere to be seen. Fired by the board weeks before the acquisition, I heard. Sarah was with me. We walked into the old server room, my domain. All those undocumented models for K950, she said. You remember them, like the back of my hand, I said. Let's get to work. First order of business, document everything. Then we train. It took nearly a year. We salvaged the core K950 IP, validated the models, documented every nuance, and integrated it into Nova Flight's rigorous quality control systems. We retrained the salvageable Aerostrong engineers, the ones who hadn't been part of Brendan's clique, the ones eager to learn. The old Aerostrong manufacturing lines started humming again, producing parts to even tighter tolerances than before for Nova Flight's expanding list of clients. Evelyn wanted me to stay on, lead the combined materials division. I've got a different idea, I told her one afternoon, overlooking the busy factory floor, the one that almost went silent. I want to set up a proper technical academy within Nova Flight, not just for us, but to raise the bar for the industry. Teach young engineers the value of deep understanding, of rigor, of experience. Teach them that some things can't be optimized away. She smiled. Consider it approved, Frank. Run with it. Sometimes I drive past the old Aerostrong sign, now part of the larger Nova Flight campus. I don't feel anger, or even triumph. Just a quiet understanding that real value, isn't about salary. It's about what you build, what you know, and the integrity you bring to it. Eventually the world figures that out, usually the hard way.